I was building things. I wasn't really an
Mm-hmm.
actor, you know. So it took
Mm-hmm.
me a minute to click the dots, and then listening to these books, I was like, oh, I'm a business guy. Like I need to build a business, and I just went for it. It took me a long time. I'm a slow learner, but eventually
Yeah,
I got
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And
incredible.
so
I mean,
everybody's journey is different, but it came from confidence and support. I got very, very lucky. Had the right mentors in my life at the right time.
what's up? What's going on? It's your boy, it's your host, Jamar Jones, and we got another banger for you here today on the Forever podcast as we talk about things that are personal and things that are business because business is personal. And we really get into some amazing conversations. Myself, I am the founder of Forever Media. I'm also a national speaker and the author of the book Change Your Circle, Change Your Life. And we are going to be doing that right now, right here today, as we have an awesome guest that I want to introduce. And he is absolutely incredible. Guy actually got the intro from Randy as he was talking with Matthew, and really was encouraged and inspired by the conversation that they got into. So we want to get into that discussion here today. So Matthew Hunt is a serial entrepreneur, B2B sales marketing expert, and a coach to company CEOs, marketing directors, and entrepreneurs. His extensive experience over a decade of helping B2B companies succeed in sales and marketing has driven him to create several seven-figure businesses, and he's just getting started. His company, Automation Wolf, is known for helping clients generate a full month of LinkedIn content in just 1 hour per week. Welcome, Matthew. What's going on, man?
Thank you for having me. I like that. You are the sum of the five closest people to you, isn't it? Isn't that true? I
Yeah,
like that. Yeah. Is
yeah.
that where you got it from? Heard that a long time
Uh
ago.
yeah, it was kind of a
Upgrade your
collection of
circle.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, the influence and I mean, it was a selection of things, but it's also the ability to change your circle as well. So
Yes.
once you identify your current circle, then how do you get into new ones? How do you
Yes.
expand that circle so it expands your mind, your opportunities, and just really your direction in life, and
That's it.
ultimately can change it.
Yeah, it's really interesting. What would be like step one for someone who feels like they're just like stuck in the wrong place, like just the circle of friends and family and everything they have? What would be the first step for someone that you'd recommend to start getting outside of that circle?
Yeah, I mean, I always say that the first step for anybody is to evaluate it first. So this is a simple way. Anybody can do it at any stage, and you probably have to do it multiple times because you have to constantly reevaluate. But kind of write down a list of all the people that are close to you, friends, family,
Mm.
coworkers, acquaintances. Write them their names all down on a list, and simply just put a plus or a negative next to their name. Are they adding to your life, or are they subtracting from your life? And you can kind of say that in any way, shape, or form that you deem necessary. And just put that in. If you have too many negatives at the end of the day than positives, then you need to do some things to start positioning that. And the one thing you could do right away is starting to eliminate or really just kind of put barriers around those people that have those negatives slowly, because some people are family and you can't just X them right
Yeah,
away.
it's tough. It's tough. Yeah, it's a tough one. I remember I had this big epiphany. It wasn't from me, but it was I was 17 and my parents were going through a divorce and things were just felt like they were melting down. And I had a teacher at the time and he just said, family's just a bunch of people you got stuck with. You either love them or you don't. And then he said, but if your friends suck, it's your problem, right? You
Yeah,
chose
it's your
those
problem.
individuals.
Yeah.
So he's like, do your friends suck? And I was like, no, I like my friends. He's like, well, you're good then. Don't worry about it. And I was like, okay. All right. It felt like everything just felt better. And he told me another thing too. He's like, your parents aren't any smarter than you are. They're just doing the best with the tools that they were given, right?
Of
Like they love
course.
you. And I was like, what? Because you always think of like, when you're a young kid, you think of your elders and other people around you as being like smarter, but not
Yeah.
always, right?
Not always.
Not always. Yeah.
Not
That's great
always. Yeah.
advice. I like that plus or minus thing. That's fantastic.
Yeah. It's just a starter, just
Yeah.
there's
The
different
beginning.
probably more things that you could do, and I outlined that all in the book. And I just kind of looked back at my life and I said, how did I get here?
Mm,
How in the world did I get here? And it
yeah,
was the ability to know myself, and then the ability to change my circle again and again and again. And now I'm
yeah,
just pouring gasoline on changing the circle, which I'm
yeah,
doing today with you, talking with you,
yeah.
which is awesome. So how did you get into the space? B2B, marketing, and also the LinkedIn space.
Oh, geez. Well, I'll try to give you the short version of it. So I kind of backed into entrepreneurship by accident. Like I didn't know that I was an entrepreneur, so I wasn't quite sure what I was, but I was. I what looking back, I realized I was always fixing things and gravitating towards managing things and operations. So I was always looking at making things better, no matter where I worked. Even when I worked at a lot of jobs, I tended to have a lot of friction with my managers or bosses, or even to the point where they'd fire me because they'd be like, because I'd be frustrated that something I could see that something could work better, and I would tell them it works better, then they wouldn't fix it. And I'd be like, "Why are you not fixing it? Why are you so dumb? Why are you a moron? Like fix this thing." And I'd be too vocal because I was too young to bite my tongue back then and not realize everything that was happening. Because what I realized later on as becoming an entrepreneur was sometimes stuff is broken and it needs fixing, but it's not the thing that needs to be fixed right now. Or sometimes you just can't fix it because the machine has gotten away from you. Like if you
Right.
build a big enough
Right.
organization, this is why many Fortune 500 companies are like, you're like, really? This is
Yeah.
this is how we do things. It's just too big. You can't undo that, right? So it's very, very, very difficult. Now, small companies like the ones I built, you can undo anything and fix anything. But that's probably where it came in. But the ultimate, like how it triggered, was literally I was working for a terrible boss at a restaurant, and he was reaming out the security person at the front door. I just thought he was being super disrespectful to him. And I'm like, you can't talk to people that way. I quit. And I'm like, if this moron can make $1 million, I can make $1 million. And I started my journey. Now, don't get me wrong. I had started my journey for 10 years prior to that, listening to books and tapes and reading Tony Robbins and
Okay.
like everything. Like I had to change my mindset for a long time. I was very interested in becoming a better person, but didn't
So
quite
you
have the
digested first and
way
then
too
leaped.
long. Yeah, like a decade. I think I was introduced my first book at like 23, you know what I mean?
Okay.
And then it wasn't until I was 31 that I actually had a change agent. So as the boss, plus I had a kid on the way. So my wife
Mhm.
was pregnant with my firstborn. And so
Mhm.
between the two, that was enough of a change agent for me to like actually like get focused and do something. And then I built an
Interesting.
agency. I built my first agency in 2010 as an official business. Prior to that, I always was doing very sort of sales or only commission based type jobs most of the time.
Okay.
So I was more self-employed. I was an actor. I did door-to-door sales. I
Yeah.
served tables. So everything, like, I didn't get paid a salary for anything. Like, you earned it. You earned what you
Yeah.
made, right? So I
Yeah.
was comfortable with that transition into entrepreneurship already, of like hunting for what you want. I just didn't know how to run a business. So I officially started the one in 2010, and then exited that one in 2014. And then I exited into a bigger business, which was awesome. That's when I really learned how to build a business and got to scale that one for another 4.5 years, and then exited that one, took a little time off,
Okay.
and realized that not doing anything sucks more than doing things. I thought I was tired, like I thought I needed a break, but honestly, like after 3 months, I'm just like, this is stupid. Like why would you not want to work? Like you think you're going to read all these books, you think you're going to go write a book, you think you're going to sit on the beach, you think all these weird things, but it was honestly like not fun at all for me,
Yeah.
really depressing. And so I was like, I just need to build something again. And so like I kind of figured it out and started building something. And I feel like this is the third time is like, oh, this one's like really awesome. Like I'm really enjoying the process and I have an
Oh, okay.
incredible team. Like this is
Yeah.
probably the best version of all those things. So it took me, it's 20 years in the making, 15 years of practicing before I
Right.
feel like I kind of know what I'm doing, and I say kind of because it's always still a
You're
process.
always learning.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think of it as like a learning thing, like a spiral, like, like if you make mistakes, as life goes on, if you can picture it, for those that can see me, you'll know what it is. But think of it as like a tornado at the very bottom. You keep hitting the bump, like you keep like you just
Yeah.
keep hitting it. But then as you get on, it's not that you don't keep repeating those same mistakes because you're just human, and we tend to lean into the same stupid mistakes all the time. But you just don't hit it as often because it gets wider and wider as you get up, right? And so you're just
Yeah.
hitting it less frequently. But it's always seems for me to be in the same lessons.
Yeah.
And they're
Yeah, for
always tied
sure.
to like some trauma that you had as a child, which I think most
Yeah.
people have. If you want to get really deep in it all, it's usually tied
Yeah.
to something messed up like that. Like mine was, I was dyslexic, or I
Yeah.
am, and I had trouble in
Yeah.
school. It was really hard for me. And I grew up in rough neighborhoods and I had
Mhm.
a bit of chip on my shoulder, so, I've always been trying to prove people wrong.
Yeah, yeah, you always
And one way
wanna
to
have
do that is
that.
make money and build a business, you know?
Exactly, exactly, and it sounded like too that, once you exited those other companies and you took that time off that, it all boils down to purpose. You know,
Mhm.
what's your purpose here on the earth? I mean, you can go into relaxation time is great, but what keeps people going, the reason to live is purpose. So either that's your family, maybe it's, creating, maybe it's just connecting with others, maybe it's giving back, maybe it's helping,
Yeah,
maybe it's building, like these are all
yeah,
things that are purposeful, that give you that energy to say, okay, I'm going to keep going. You can only
yeah.
relax for so long.
Yeah,
And so you
and
feel like
and
you need
and the purpose
something.
yeah, and the purpose can be very selfish and very small. Like, for me, like if it's just creating. Like I like creating. I'm happiest when I'm
Yeah, me too.
creating. I'm
Yep.
happiest when I'm in a struggle. And I can say like I'm have all these purposes to save the world and connect my family. It's not true. I'm a selfish individual. Like my kids are going to eventually raise and move out and they're going to ignore me and they're going to need therapy. Like who am I kidding, right? Like am I like honestly, like let's get real with it. So many people always have like these big lofty like mission, vision,
Yeah.
and values. And I have them in my company too, but most of it's bullshit. Like we're doing it because like we have this internal need as a crazy, fucked up person who needs to create and feel valued and their ego
Right.
stroke, right? Like that's a part of the
Right.
process. But I'm happiest when I'm creating, like and
Yeah.
when I'm going through struggle. I'm not happy when I'm like winning and I'm not happy when I'm losing. It's kind of like that in between thing, but there's definitely friction and pressure and constraints like that
Oh,
I
yeah.
like. Yeah.
Yeah, problem solving. I mean,
Yeah,
it just
problem
comes down to
solving.
problem
I like
solving
that.
and
Yeah.
figuring out what's next,
Yeah.
what's the journey. So for you, kind of through your path, so did you go to college or were you just straight out of high
I
school and
I
and
did.
went
I
for
went
it?
to I went to theater school. So I'm classically trained theater actor who like studied Shakespeare and Moliere and all this other stuff. And I
Interesting.
yeah, and I got lucky only because I found some mentors in high school who because I auditioned for a play as a joke because I was that kid. Like they're like, go audition for the play. I'll go audition for the play. And then the next thing I knew, they gave me a part, and then like a little bit through, the teachers were really good to me. They're actually the reason I actually were really good to me was I actually set my high school on fire, and I was supposed to be expelled from the school system altogether. But these
You
theater
set the high school on fire?
yeah, and and so and
Why?
because you're stupid, like you're a teenager,
Was it
like
a
you
prank? Was
like
it a dare? What is it?
pretty much. That's exactly how it went down. A bunch of teenagers smoking a bunch of joints and going, "No, you do it. No, you do it. No, you do it." And finally, I was like, "Shut up! I'll just do it." Next thing you know, the school's on fire, right? And you're like, "Holy shit!
Oh
What did we
my
do?" We're just
god.
dumb, right? Just dumb. This is why there's laws that you should have stuff abolished when you're a teenager. Because I wasn't a bad kid. I wasn't a bad kid. I really wasn't. I was raised well by my mom and all that other stuff, right? So these teachers, though, came to my rescue and they basically said, "This is not a kid you want to kick out. Like he's a good kid." And then I was like, "Why'd they
Huh.
do?" They didn't. I was like, "They don't know me. Why'd they do that for me?" Like and then I just kind of started hanging out with more of the theater kids, and I was like, "This is a good group." And then they give me big roles, and they're like, "You know what? Like you can't read and write, but you're really good on stage, and like when you memorize your lines, you're strong." And then they were started working with me on my speech impediments because I spoke like I had marbles in my mouth and like after school.
Right.
And then I built my confidence
Okay.
up. And then I was like, I'm going to go to theater school. So then I auditioned and I got in and then I trained as that and I did acting on stage for a decade. And then, when my wife got pregnant, I was on tour and I was like, you know what, this is kind of not going to work. And honestly, it wasn't serving me because even at the theater, I was putting on shows and producing them and directing them, and, like, I was always, like, making a move. I was building things. I wasn't really an
Mhm.
actor, you know? So it took me
Mhm.
a minute to click the dots, and then listening to these books, I was like, "Oh, I'm a business guy. Like, I need to build a business," and I just went for it. It took me a long time. I'm a slow learner, but eventually
Yeah,
I get
yeah.
it. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And
incredible.
so
I mean,
everybody's journey is different, but it came from confidence and support. I got very, very lucky. Had the right mentors in my life at the right time.
yeah,
And I was open
mentor.
enough and not
Yeah,
too broken to say yes, to take a chance because, life is scary, right? It could have very
yeah.
easily gone the other way in many different ways. And I see that
Oh
happen with a
my
lot of
goodness.
amazing, incredible people. I see a lot of kids, or people who, made wrong mistakes, but they very easily could be the next, entrepreneur. And if you even like interview, I bet you most entrepreneurs, most of them probably had learning challenges in school. Most of them probably
Yeah.
have a history of being a troubled kid. Like these are exactly the kids you want to foster in that kind of creativity. I mean, being a criminal is not that much different than being an entrepreneur. You're just using one for good and one for bad, right? I mean, it's
Exactly.
it's it's the same skills. You're still building an organization, right? It still requires the same structure.
Exactly,
It's still
exactly.
marketing, it's still
Yeah,
sales,
yeah,
it's still people
yeah,
skills, it's still soft skills, like all of those things. So you just need to apply it in the right ways. And sometimes you get lucky based on your environment, and you say yes to the right things and no to the wrong things, and you go on your own journey, right? And some people
yeah.
have it easy and others don't. Who cares? Run your race, you know what I mean? And as long as you're trending in the right direction, you'll get where you need to go. It's a long game, man.
Oh yeah, you gotta play the long game, but it's incredible about your story because, a lot of people are trying to find that exact path of where to go.
Yeah,
And I always talk about mentorship, and it's so important to say, like you said yes at the right opportunities. But it's also about that belief and, where those teachers saw something in you,
yeah,
where they said, like, hey, let's not expel this person because that could also send you down a whole nother path
yeah,
of resentment, anger, probably depression, etc. And those teachers said, nah, like, the track record in the past is probably pretty good. Let's give this person another chance. There's something here, and saw something to you. And then you also agreed and said yes, which was a huge turning point. And I do believe that where people, a lot of times they struggle, like I struggled a lot of times in school, math, in particular. I went to four different high schools, growing up. I School is very difficult, but I am one that is a connector and a creator, and I really
mhm,
know how to do those very well. And
mhm,
once you start to know yourself and you can master yourself, that's where you start to say, "Hey, the possibilities are endless as long as I know my superpower. I know what I
yeah,
can contribute here." Um, and that really helped me kind of get to the path of entrepreneurship. And because I was really honestly an entrepreneur from a very young age with music. So
mhm,
I was music artist, hip hop. I did like motivational hip hop and traveled all around, did hundreds of shows. But I built that whole thing, and that was a form of entrepreneurship.
100%.
Just
100% it was.
yeah,
Yeah,
all of it, the team, the
all assets
marketing,
of
the
it.
production, the
Totally. Yeah.
everything, the traveling,
Yeah.
logistics,
You had what it
selling.
takes, right? You had
Had to
what it
do it
takes. You just
all.
need to get in the right vehicle, the right boat, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes a bunch of tries to get there. And, I don't know about you, but like I had like a little bit of a identity crisis when I went from acting to entrepreneurship. And one of the things that held me back from doing business when
Huh.
I was young was I actually was ready at probably 26, 27, but I felt like I was uh not being my authentic self or leaving the previous community or circle that I was in by moving to
Mhm.
entrepreneurship versus being in the theater community and the acting community
Yeah,
or
2 different
making movies,
worlds.
two different
Yeah.
worlds. And I didn't realize, oh, you could be good at two things.
Yeah.
It's only today that this is a thing. You have to think like if you go back long enough, actors and celebrities and stuff didn't run businesses back then. But
No.
today, entrepreneurs and artists, they build empires. Like they understand they're the media. They are a media
Yes.
company now. And then they spin out business after business after business because they own the community and the trust with the community. I
Yeah.
I wish I'd known this stuff back then. I probably never even would have left that interest, to be honest with you. I would have built it off of just really focusing on becoming a media company, and it took me several
Right.
iterations before I realized, oh, damn, this creator thing, personal branding thing, this media branding thing, this is a legit thing, this community thing. Because if you own the relationship with a community, you literally have a license to print money. You can do whatever you want,
Right.
endless opportunities.
Right.
That's the golden ticket.
Yeah, an audience. If you can
An
create an
audience, yeah,
audience of some form where they're interested in something that you do,
yeah,
um, that's where you gain. I mean, that's it with anything in this world. If you have
anything,
an audience within
yeah,
religion, if you have an audience
yeah, anything,
within a basketball team, if you have an audience within a business, you create
yeah,
a brand like Nike, they have an audience that
yeah,
is looking out for that next shoe, the next drop,
yeah.
the next this. I mean, audiences really rule everything, and if you have that, it's
Yeah,
uh
it's
it's
just a
absolutely amazing.
it's called being a media company, and what's great is it's
Yeah.
so distributed now, and it's getting smaller little because you can be a micro sort of celebrity and build your own, like,
Yeah.
community, but the reality is, like, if you can picture it on the screen, it's like a triangle of, like, leverage, right? And the bottom one is leveraging
Yeah.
other people's time, right? And the middle one is then leveraging capital, and the next one is software and automation, but the top one, the pillar of the pyramid, is media. And if you can conquer that one, you can do all the others anyways. So I
Mm.
learned the one with like labor to begin with, right? And then I've always been bootstrapped, so I've never taken capital. It's just like like a value base for me that if it does not profit from day
Mhm.
one, I just can't wrap my brain around it. I don't want to be a part of it. And
Mhm.
then, software I've dabbled in, and then media is the one that I've been missing. And now I'm super hyper focused on media, like building a podcast like this right now, or speaking and doing other things like this is media building. This is personal
Yeah.
branding. This is
Yeah.
this is the community and community building as well too. So community and media are the is the highest point you can get in the pyramid. And when you can do that, you can do anything.
I love that visual too. That's a great way of putting it. And so when we talk about what you're doing today and you say like you
Yeah,
you love it, you have a passion for it, um, what's some of the challenges that you see with helping, entrepreneurs, CEOs
totally.
within, just getting into LinkedIn? Because I mean, LinkedIn's my number one platform. I love LinkedIn. It's super powerful. The relationships we built off there is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And a lot of owners, CEOs, leadership don't understand the power of LinkedIn. They still think it's used for resumes, and that's
Yeah.
it. So, what are some of
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
challenges that you kind of help solve? Because I'm a hyper, I believe in this space 100%.
Yeah. Well, I mean, LinkedIn is just another social media network, no different than TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, you name it, right? They're all just a little different in their culture and the people that are on there. But LinkedIn is not as active as like the other platforms, but it's great if you want to target B2B or high net worth individuals or senior type executives and leadership. Like great place to be. The average salary is like 3 times x that you'll find on Instagram or TikTok. Not to say that that is in the future, you want to play in those different areas as well too, but if it's B2B business, you need to be on LinkedIn, right? It's like that. So the reason what I actually do, so the problems that I actually solve is like, so what we do is we actually help B2B companies build demand on LinkedIn. However, the problem that I actually solve is the obstacle of time. So
Mm,
everyone I work with is a busy founder or CEO, and it's not that they don't know that they need to have a personal brand or publish content on LinkedIn on a regular basis for them and their brand and their company. Nor is it like that they don't know how to do it. They just literally don't have enough time. So I was like, that's the problem I'm actually solving. It's not money, it's not how, it's not that they should do it. Like I literally preach to the choir. Like people who buy from me, they're like, yeah, I'm in. I get it.
yeah, yeah,
But how am I supposed to do this? I tried it and it's inconsistent. It takes me an hour a day to write a post, or like, like I don't know what to write,
yeah.
like all these other things. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll solve this problem. And so we created a product initially that would help people create and get their content distributed on LinkedIn with just 1 hour per month. It's actually an hour and a half, be honest with you, now that we've been
1
with it
hour
for a
sounds a
little.
little better.
What well, 1 hour is to capture it, and then I need you for 30 minutes to approve it or provide feedback, and then we take care of
Right.
all the tedious stuff that you do. But the way we do it is, 1, we created a system on being able to create compelling content every single time, but 2, we meet with them privately like this, and we interview
Mhm.
them. But we do it with the intention of making snackable content, because the intention of snackable content is different than long form content, like a
Right.
podcast. And it's very
Right.
hard to slice and dice it out. And it's a different flavor and tone and process that you're going through. And when we're doing it, when you're
100%.
in the news feed, doesn't matter if it's TikTok or LinkedIn, I mean, you got 30 seconds to 60 seconds, and you better hook them in the first 3 seconds. And so if you don't lead it great with great sound bites and a process, it's not going to work. And the reason why we do it privately is most people are not trained this way. They're not lean, mean soundbite machines. Why would
Mhm.
they be? It doesn't make you very
Yeah.
human to walk around doing that. But if you're not used to being media trained to show up on the 6 o'clock news and nail your sound bites, you're not going to be good at this. So we do it privately, and we lead with intention, and we capture it with video first. Why video first? Because everybody loves video, and it helps them do
Right.
that. You can see them. It's on point, on voice. And then the video inspires the text, the images, the polls, the carousels, and everything else that we
Yeah.
can create all this kind of content, and we can recycle it and push it out. And then what ends up happening is it creates so many feedback loops for that person, which is absolutely amazing. And what ends up happening is they have the feedback loop of doing it privately with a coach. So they're held accountable to show up once per month. Plus, they get feedback. Plus, we're practicing this stuff privately, and then editing keeps the best stuff. Two, they see it finally put together, because sometimes they do a
Yeah.
session and they're like, that kind of sucked. And you're like, don't worry about it. Editing's your friend. You'll be cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll make you look sharp. You know what I mean? Yeah, you didn't look good today, so we're gonna do an audiogram. Like, don't worry about it. We
Yeah.
got you. We got you back. So,
We
but then
got
they
you.
see the final product. They're like, oh, actually, I don't sound as dumb as I thought I sounded. So they have a little more confidence, and then they put it out to the web, and they get the feedback loop from there. And so between there, they
Mhm.
have 3 feedback things in a month. They come back excited, inspired, and ready to do the next one and get better. And what ends up happening is they become a more effective communicator over time. And so, because when you learn to speak about your business and you're held accountable to speak about it, if you become a more effective communicator, you become a better leader to your team.
Mhm.
You end up being able to lead your clients better, more effectively. So then they stay longer, less churn, and they refer you more business. 3, you start closing more deals. And then, because now we took out all the tedious stuff that was preventing you from being consistent, now people can get to know you because now you're
Mm.
showing up. And that knowing leads to liking if you write the right kind of content. And then, if you do enough of it over time, you have trust, because we don't buy from people we don't know, like, and trust. And we can't trust you if we don't like you, and we can't like you if we don't know you. So knowing is consistency.
Right.
Liking is the way you create your content, which is a very specific way that you need to do it to make people like you. And trust is time. And so that stackable content, if you just do that alone, that's a great way of just staying top of mind with your existing clients and warm network, and you'll get way more referrals. And the best business is referrals. So now you can put fuel on the fire. Now,
Oh, for
eventually
sure.
people need to get past that, and they need to do something else. So this is where that's your short form pillar. We have 2 other pillars to the process: long form and controlled form. And so long
Okay.
form is your one-to-many selling conversion event. This is what's known as a webinar or workshop. This is where
Mhm.
you get put on stage and you speak for an hour. Reason why we want you to speak for an hour or teach something for an hour is because it ends up fast tracking the trust process, because we should never sell to someone who doesn't already know, like, and trust us. It's futile.
Right.
If you try to sell someone, you're not preaching to the choir. It's
Yeah.
way it's way hard,
It's
right?
pretty
You got
brutal.
you got to be good at you got to be good at sales. And you know what?
Oh,
Most people are not.
negotiation, persuasion. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot of things to
And
it.
people are not good at sales, right? They
Yeah.
we're not, and nor should you be. And nobody wants to be sold to or marketed to. So if you do this well and you build the know, like, trust factor, then you can suck at sales, right? And you can charge more because you're seen
Yeah.
as more valuable, because now there's demand. So the only reason we do the long form is be able to fast track that. So what we want to do is take from the short form, ladder them up to the
Yeah.
long form. And then the
Yeah.
controlled form is the exact same thing as the short form. The only difference is you're leveraging paid media to do it. You run ads. The problem
Right.
organically is only 5 to 10% of your audience sees your organic stuff. So
Yeah.
that means 90% of the time you're not being seen. Well, if you just take your audience plus add a very strategic one, because you can build a list and upload it and get
Yeah.
what's called a matched audience, and you can guarantee your snackable content is seen. So then you can start being like Coca-Cola or Nike, but not have to spend the Coca-Cola or Nike budgets. And if you do that process over time, what's beautiful about it is it compounds. And if you understand how compound interest works, this is why you'll understand Einstein says it's the eighth wonder of the world, is because people
Mhm.
who understand it earn it, and those that don't pay it.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
reality is people who don't, they don't do the basics over and over and over and over again. They don't do something that's evergreen. They get involved in something else. They have the green shiny syndrome and they start doing all
Right.
kinds of other stuff that it never compounds. So this thing you do when you start it, you will never, ever, ever stop doing. And so the question you ask is it in my budget? And how much time is going to take, because
Right.
time is a non-renewable resource. That's the real obstacle that you're trying to overcome. And then is it evergreen? If it is, you do it. And so if you can keep this in budget, an hour and a
Right.
half per month, plus it compounds over time, this is a good investment. It protects a moat around my business. It protects a moat around my personal career. Good to go. So this is why I love this business. The point is, until your close referral rate is more than your churn rate, do not proceed and collect your $200. Do not go past go. Stop, pause, fix. You know.
Yeah, yeah, 100%, 100%. No, that's and I can just attest to, from the the personal branding part of it, because that's been huge, for our success as far as just having that presence on social media
one Hundred
consistently.
percent.
Just recently we had somebody reach out to us that has been following us for 2 years.
Right.
2 years.
It's a long game. People
2
underestimate
years.
that, but that's amazing, though. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
and then reached out, had like 2 meetings, and now they're on board, as a new
Brilliant.
partnership.
Yeah.
It's absolutely incredible, especially for B2B. Um, I just feel like the time is the biggest, component to this. Um, but it's so worth it, and the way how you worded it with just an hour, is definitely worth. It's like you could any busy person could carve out an hour. I've
Totally.
I've talked with,
Well, what's your time worth, right? At the end of the
influencers,
day. Yeah.
celebrities, and it's like they have an hour. Then that
Yeah.
means that CEO or person, the executive, they got an hour to carve out
Totally. Like, what would you
to
pay
to
to
invest.
multiply yourself literally hundreds of times to hundreds of people every single day for one
Right.
hour? And what is your time worth to you at the end of the day? And if you're really
Right.
successful, like it's worth a lot. $1,000, an hour, $2,000 per hour, $5,000 per hour. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
And if it's taking you an hour a day and your time is worth, let's just say the average consultant is $500 an hour. That's pretty standard if
Yeah.
you're good at what you do, right?
Mhm.
So if it took you, an hour a day to do this type of stuff over 20 business days, right? All of a sudden you're at 10 grand. It makes
Yeah.
sense to pay a smaller amount, $2,500 to do
Yeah.
that. And they'll probably do it
Yeah.
better than you, right? Like it's
Yeah.
leveraging that time.
Right.
The time is the
They
real
actually know
issue.
what they're doing.
Yeah, yeah. Or like us, we have a 10,000-foot view because we have
Yeah.
dozens and dozens and dozens of busy CEOs and founders. And so we get to see the trees from the forest. Let's say sometimes you just see your own
Right.
stuff. You're like, is this working? You're like, yeah, on the
Yeah.
averages, you're doing great. And you just need confirmation, right? You're like, okay, cool. So I don't totally suck. No, you don't suck. Just keep
Yeah.
going,
Just keep going.
or hey, here's the trends of the things that are working. Like follow the ACEs method: authority, connect, engage, and show. Well, what's that? Okay, here's what we need to do. Works every single time. You follow that formula, the post does well, because if I go through and
Yeah.
I evaluate it, I can see the patterns. I'm like, yep, authority, connect, engage, and show. And what I mean by that is like, did you give a tip that made things better? Connect, did it hit the heart, the gut, or the funny bone? Engage, did you give permission for other people to participate in the content? And then show, did you show your work? Don't tell people that you're awesome. Like show that, like actually like show sneak peeks behind the
Yeah.
scene and
Show what
screenshots
you're
and other
doing.
stuff. Yeah. And if you do those things in a post, people are tend to want to talk about it and share it. And it's gonna like blow up and it's gonna get the
Right.
attention that you want.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah. Very simple, very simple. I mean,
Love it.
and this stuff is very I think people get overwhelmed with it, but this
Yeah.
simplified, like the way how you just explained is incredible. I mean, just simplifying this process, because just and people hear this all the time, so it's not like they need to tell you that social media is important. It's
Yeah.
just that the other side of this, the success and the outcomes can be absolutely tremendous and
Yeah.
life-changing. And people like Matthew want to, have you experience that, of all the wins, all the successes that can happen. Thank you so much for being on this podcast, man. I mean, this is incredible. I feel like we could have dived deeper into your story a little bit, as well, because it's very interesting. And I love that you took that path of kind of discovering yourself, and then pouring kind of gas to the fire of the things that you do great, which is an operator, which is building. And now you're just doing just that. Who knows where you're going to be in 20 years? If this company is going to be the last one, or if you're going to have a couple more after that. Thank you so much. Where can people find you at? Where can people get connected with you?
Yeah, there's just two places to find me. You can find me on LinkedIn, just search Matthew Hunt, or Automation Wolf, automationwolf.com. It's just spelled exactly the way it sounds, and that's on purpose. You can just only find me at those two places right now.
Awesome. Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for your time. And
Thank you for
yeah, we're
having me.
definitely gonna stay connected and keep this going. So if you're watching, listening, definitely drop a comment, like, subscribe to the channel. And we are streaming on everywhere. We're YouTube. I mean, anywhere you can find us. Also, this podcast is in our Forever movement. So all members will be able to check this out. So until the next time, keep changing your circle to change your life, and we out. Peace. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell for more amazing content that we're going to be putting out. And don't forget, you can change your circle to change your life.